like your mom. You look just like your dad is a phrase that most of us are familiar with and have heard over the years. When a baby is born, most relatives say, "Oh, she has her mother's face. Oh, she has her father's eyes. Oh, look at him. His anger issues are just like his dad." Could your anger issues be just like your dad's? Could your trauma be just like your grandmother's? And could your anxiety disorder be just like your great-great-grandmother? Good morning. My name is Nila Kamal, and today my talk is on confronting the ghosts in our genes. Puberty between the ages of 8 and 13 is typically a time filled with stress and anxiety due to hormonal changes, physical development. But for some girls like me, this feeling continued to linger on until I stopped and asked my mother, "Why am I like this? Why does my body panic when my life is calm?" And my mother responded, "Well, your dad has the same anger issues as you." And in that moment, I realized, I'm nothing like my dad. I haven't lived a life that he has lived. What if the pain that I felt wasn't entirely mine? Researchers are beginning to explore a possibility once unthinkable: epigenetic inheritance. Traumatic events can leave biological marks on your DNA, changing the way that your genes are expressed forever. A process known as DNA methylation can tag DNA and activate or repress genes. But major stressful events can alter these responses. For example, genes we use to regulate stress could be turned off, whilst genes we use to create stress could be turned on, affecting our descendants' ability to regulate emotions and stress responses. In some cases, trauma can even manifest in the physical. South Asians are 4 to 5 times more likely to get type 2 diabetes compared to other races. One of the leading causes seems to be the frequency and severity of famines that has shaped South Asian epigenetics several years ago. Today, I'm South Asian. I don't struggle to have food on my plate. Today, most South Asians here eat 3 meals a day. But the trauma of surviving a famine still remains in our bodies. The body still keeps score. PhD researchers Dr. Diaz and Dr. Ressler experimented with mice in 2013 to explore this phenomenon of epigenetic inheritance. It all started with conditioning male mice to be afraid of a chemical called acetophenone, which had a signature cherry blossom-like scent. On day 1, you could imagine the mice are introduced to a new sweet smell. Seemingly nothing to be worried about, right? And then suddenly, an electric shock is given to them. Day 2, scent, electric shock. Day 3, day 4, day 5, 10 days pass. On day 10, the scent is introduced yet again. The mice continue their routine, anticipating the electric shock. They scatter around their cages, muscles tensing, breathing changing, bracing for impact, but nothing happens. The electric shock was actually not given to them. Scientists found that these frightened mice grew more smell receptors to detecting this scent. And it's almost like their brain was wired, like a built-in alarm system, to detect this scent at lower concentrations. The mice then scatter around. They all find their wives, and their wives give birth to baby mice. These baby mice never meet their fathers. And yet, when this scent is introduced yet again, they have a heightened sensitivity to that scent. In fact, they were found to have more smell receptors to that scent compared to their fathers, even when their mothers were completely normal. And they lived completely normal lives. Researchers, pressing on, looked at the sperm of these father mice and found that this sperm had a gene repackaged for detecting the scent. The scent that was detected, the cherry blossom-like scent, was chemically repackaged in their genetics. The trauma had been marked on to their reproductive cell, in other words. A fear that traveled through generations, not by memories, but by DNA. The most fascinating aspect of this, The mice were never introduced to an electric shock. These baby mice had an irrational fear of the scent. They had a fear of a scent that they've never experienced a danger for. Now back to the question that I started with. Why did I have anger issues? Looking deep into my family history, I found that my dad seemed to have inherited these issues from his father. Well, my grandfather was the sixth child among 10, raised by a single mother. No space to be soft, no time to be heard. All this buildup of maturity and bitterness at such a young age would have been his electrical shock. But that fear didn't end with him. In the mice experiment, the next generation of mice continued to feel fear for something that they had never experienced the danger for. I grew up in a stable household. I was loved. I was supported. And yet I felt this fear more than ever, even when there was no electric shock in sight. But just as trauma was written on these cells, healing can rewrite them. My grandparents weren't dreaming of fulfillment and purpose. They were dreaming of survival and living on stable wages. But today, I stand in a generation where we want to thrive in life, not just survive. A generation where mental health is not considered weak. A generation where we have people ready to help and access to resources. So ask yourself, what pattern are you repeating as a result of generational trauma? What cherry blossom-like scent do you react to even if you've never experienced the danger yourself? Because every time you choose healing over repression, you are rewriting the mental health of a generation ahead of you. Trauma may leave a lasting legacy, yes, but so can courage, resilience, and faith. Thank you.